save paper, you know.
So speaking of I would say tapping onto that human, very relevant fear about replacement and AI and technology. Google recently released a video, a kind of like very long update on their model. It's called Gemini, but I think they changed it to Google I/O or something like that.
Google I/O is a conference that they do every year. It's their like keynote conference.
So Google I/O, but it's still called Gemini.
Yeah, right? Google Gemini. Right. They rebranded what they had before, and now it's called Gemini.
Right. So to talk about that, no, it was definitely a very interesting video. I didn't watch all of it, but I watched like a 10-minute summary that I had.
And this is a relaunch of Gemini.
Yeah, this is a relaunch of Gemini. So the things that interested me the most obviously came to the search function capabilities of it. Well, I say search function, that's a bad term. It was more looking at the Project Astra that they had, and they were talking about how Google Gemini would be used for everyday use, right?
Yeah.
And it sparked my curiosity in terms of how this affects education. How is this, like, say 2 years down the line, how does this get integrated into, say, things like the workplace? You know, like things like the services that we already have, right? Like, Google Maps, just Google search engine in general. Like, what's the long-term effects of that?
Yeah, because I think one of the long-term effects is something they had in one of their videos where two people were talking and one only speaks Italian and the other one only speaks English, and it was able to offer active translation. It was able to offer active translation. I was like, yo, that's pretty cool.
That's very, very cool.
That's really, really cool to be able to see it in a real-world implication like that.
Because the better that gets, things like, like language barriers become less and less of an issue, and then when language barriers become less and less of an issue, cross pollination of like work and travel and
ideas.
Ideas. Like we're no longer limited to the kind of ideas that might circulate in a Western culture. You might be able to see, okay, how's a Japanese person think? Like, how did I know
you were going to say Japanese?
Okay, how's a Spanish person think, or how a French person thinks, right? but like the different cultural ideas that like that maybe don't get to branch
we don't get to interact with maybe except for like from the outside, but having that access of being able to speak the language through AI allows you to get into a culture,
exactly, right? So that was very interesting. There was also a part of it where they showed they were talking about the multimodal AI and how they built it to be multimodal, but they've also added a part. They're focusing on the part about context, like the AI being able to understand context. And there was a particular function they showed where the lady asked the AI if it could remember where she put her glasses, right? And the AI told her it was by a red apple, and she was able to find it and pick up the glasses and put them on, right? And I thought that was really cool because let's blow out the idea for a second. Like, say you had that kind of AI set up in your own house, right? And the usual, I can't find my keys, or
I know the usual, right? I can't find my keys. Trust.
Like you could ask the AI, hey, yo, you remember where this item was, or this one, and it might be able to help you in that. That's a very simple and immediate way you can see how that is useful. But then the age-old question now, like when it comes to education now, it did have a segment about it was asking the AI, how can it was talking about, it had like a cash system written on a whiteboard, and the person asked what would help improve this system, right? And the AI was able to give an answer, but now you have to. So that is very immediately helpful in terms of like education or helping students, like okay, help me with this problem, help me with that problem. Is this correct? People challenging their ideas against a very intelligent system.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have to ask the question, it's like, okay, are we replacing tutors? Are we replacing our own ability to critically think, right?
Yeah, because we even did it in the office the other day. We were working on some branding options for a client, and we use the AI to help us brainstorm.
Mm-hmm.
Like we use ChatGPT and we asked it certain questions around certain words, but then we discussed the results.
Yeah.
So it became part of the brainstorm session rather than the brainstorm session.
Exactly.
And I think the fear that a lot of tutors have, institutions, is that students are using it, and to be fair, they probably are, using it to be their thought process, where they put in information, it outputs something.
To write their essays, to answer their questions. Things
and I mean, that, you get a grade, but do you actually learn something?
Right.
And does it then decrease or devalue the human experience in the long run?
Yeah, because we've already had issues where children in America, I don't know if it's anywhere else, but children in America are suffering from they did not be able to read very well.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Oh, here in Barbados too.
Right.
Absolutely.
So now, how's this how with the introduction of AI, how does that propagate into the future now, where say children no longer with access to these kinds of AI, will children be able to actually learn how to critically think? Will they develop normally in the way that we need them to develop so as to sustain our future, right?
Yeah.
And I think those are things that those are questions that we can't really definitively answer now, because in a way it's still new technology, and it hasn't happened yet, right?
Yeah.
It hasn't happened.
Well, it's happening now. Like we're seeing AI's introduction. We're seeing how people are overusing it, misusing it,
things like
those
that.
sorts of things. So I think what we will need to see is some sort of regulatory framework pop up for how, I think you mentioned before the podcast, the AI police.
Yeah.
Some kind of regulatory framework pop up for how is AI used, where it should be used, when it should be used, and for how much of your content. Can AI be used up to 40% of your content, 60% of your content? What makes it your content if you've over a certain point, right? And I think those sorts of regulations come with time, come with usage, and come with development of the industry. But I think what needs to happen now, because of how, we saw Sora at the start of this year come up with these amazing stock videos, AI generated. I think these things need to be put in place now, when these things are being developed, so that by the time they get into common use, these frameworks are already there. Because without it, it's going to run too far.
Yeah, very much so. But you talked about Sora generating video, right? Mm-hmm. And that just reminded me about in their in Google's I/O presentation. They had producers. They had a segment where music producers and artists were talking about the generative capabilities of the. I can't remember which model it was, but it was within Gemini system, helping them produce music, right? So now the more pertinent question with how AI affects us, say us as artists, us as creators, us as designers, the very question is, can AI replace us? Will AI replace us? Or what does the world look like when this technology gets better?
Yeah.
Right? Because we've even used it in the office, right?
We've used it in the office for a couple of projects. We just released a video, what would Barbados look like in 70 years?
Yeah.
We put it on TikTok, Instagram, and we generated those images based on real images of Barbados, and had the AI engine just
generate
make Barbados look futuristic.
Yeah.
So there is a conceptual place for it. Mm-hmm. In Adobe's Firefly engine, that's amazing.
Right. Yeah, that's another thing we have to think about.
But where does photography end and AI begin?
Yeah.
How much can you say something is a photograph when you've added in a lighthouse, added in mountains, added in lampposts and buildings and clouds? Is it still your photo?
Yeah.
And that's the big question. Is it still your photo, or does that count as post-production? Where does the photo end and AI begin?
Yeah.
And I think those are the sorts of conversations we need to be having. I think that as creatives, I am not an early adopter. I live on Morrissey's side of skepticism. I believe paranoia saves lives. But we have to be, I think, on the forefront, and we have to tell the industry how we use AI.
Yeah.
We can't let it be like we can't let it get too far ahead of where we're willing to go. We have to hold on to it, and we have it's like a horse. We have to hold on to the reins and say, you will go this way.
Yeah.
We will use you like this.
Yeah.
Rather than the industry getting away from us, the technology getting away from us, and we have to play catch up.
Yeah.
You know, because if that happens, then yeah, we become obsolete.
Yeah, but here's the thing: people were making similar claims about Photoshop back in the day. Like maybe, I don't know if it was 10, maybe 15 years ago.
Probably way before that.
Way before that, but people kind of had similar criticisms about Photoshop. And then Photoshop just became the standard for image creation, right?
Right.
You know, photo manipulation, things like that, art, stuff like that, right? So
what you said there became the standard for photo manipulation, but you still had to do the work.
Right.
You still had to use Photoshop to manipulate.
Right, but that's what I'm kind of saying is like now with AI, the level of photo manipulation has just evolved. It's still technically we know how we've tested the Photoshop beta ourselves, and pretty much how we've integrated it into our workflow is like, you know, maybe when we want to cut out a character, a person from a background, you know,
remove
background
works brilliantly.
Works brilliantly. When we want to put in a different background or put in or splice in an image, the Photoshop beta works with that, right? So, and I think at this stage currently, I don't know what the future holds. I think at this stage currently, it's pretty much just an augment for all the things that we already do. And the thing that I think is really cool about it now is because it introduces a thought where, you know, that's somebody like accessibility. You can now put in text. You can now put in text to generate an image, right?
You can use your sketches to generate an image,
right? But what about people that can't do that? People that don't have that say don't have proper use of their hands, you know, like they like so people. It's a very common thing where people with disabilities don't have same access to all the different type of job opportunities that people that that, you know, have full capabilities do, right? But with something like introduction of AI like this in this format, they could even use voice commands where the only thing that they need to create is their mind, you know,
and the AI, then just tell the AI what they want, and it can create it,
right? So in that way, I'm actually not mad at it because because there's a creator that I really like his videos. His name is GX Ace or something like that. He does camera reviews, right? He has a disability where he can't even properly bend his his fingers, right? But with like more updates to cameras and stuff, like the recent Fujifilm X100, that was perfectly timed as usual.
Yes.
Yeah. Right?
With the recent
with the Fujifilm, the recent Fujifilm S106, right? Or what S106. It was easier for him to actually click the camera, right? And he felt like the camera was designed for him, which helped. And I think that would definitely help him better create like more images, better images and stuff like that, because it's geared towards accessibility, right? Accessibility is something that we really do need. I think should become more front of mind when we're talking about AI, because you know, like maybe then, let's say for like a crazy way, like with the integration of AI and active technology, you know, like maybe you don't need to be physically manipulating the thing itself. Maybe you could just use AI, like say a surgeon. Like obviously to be a surgeon, you need your hands, right? But say somebody wants to be a surgeon, but they don't have proper use of their hands. How could AI and technology, the fusion and the future of AI and technology, help that individual in the future to be able to do something that they actually really want to do, but their physical capabilities don't allow them to do that.
Yeah, so I think that was like when You know, a couple years ago they were talking about 5G and the introduction of 5G and the latency between, you know, one side of the equation and the other, where you might give the command to a piece of technology, but then there's a latency. 5G had shown in certain instances to significantly reduce that latency between the command and the act of like a robotic hand or something. Like, it was significantly reduced. I think we're still a ways off from there, but with the introduction of AI, quantum computing, advancements in robotics, we're definitely seeing a world where these things are coming together. I think one of the things we have to think about, like getting back to the whole idea of like where does photography end and AI begin? Back in the day when Photoshop was introduced, either you were the photographer of the image, or you found a photographer, you bought the image from him, but you still had to do the physical manipulation, the blending of the images, etc., and use Photoshop to do it. Now it's, hey, give me an image of a mountain with a lighthouse, clouds at midday with people frolicking on the beach. Sit there, prompt, loading, generate. And what did you do? You know, there's that question, that, I guess, philosophical, existential question. What did you really do? How did you really create it? And is it really yours? You know, and I think that's a good place, I think, to ask our viewers, like, tell us in the comments, what do you think of that? Is it really yours? Did you really generate it? Or is it just the technology doing the work for you?
Is an AI artist like a genuine thing? Like, can you be an AI artist? You know, is it something they can definitely recognize? Or another question that would be relevant is like, how has AI benefited or not benefited you in your design work, or how, or the approach, you know, the attitude that clients would have, you know, like, because you know, one of the things we would have to consider, actually, a person posed this question to me, is like, not in an offensive way, but he was kind of like, you know, in the future, you kind of have to ask, I have to ask you, what's the use of your skill if I could just get AI to generate it for me, right? And it's a very relevant question.
Yeah, like I was telling a parent at the recent portfolio show that the students had at the Barbados Community College, it then boils down to, we have to think of ourselves as creative professionals, something I talk about a lot, and what is our conceptual thinking? Because there's still the emotional, so there's still the conceptual, there's still that human level of thinking. AI can process, but AI processes. AI doesn't think. It processes information very fast, with access to a lot of resources. I know people talk about AI hallucinations, but AI doesn't think. And someone will say, well, maybe you're wrong. Maybe somebody who knows AI better than me may say you're wrong. I would challenge them on that, because thought is something that's inherently human. You know,
we develop thought over time through observations, through multiple things, and AI, at least in its current form, hasn't done that.
Yeah, so we sharpen our imagination, we sharpen our emotional intelligence, we sharpen our conceptual thinking,
our contextual thinking,
and we use that to harness the power of AI. And I think that's where the beautiful marriage can be between the human and the artificial intelligence.
Yeah.